What's up, y'all? This is Naaman Roosevelt, number 82 for your Saskatchewan Roughriders, and this is the Rider Outsider.
Welcome to the Rider Outsider podcast. Week 11 is in the books. I'm Dylan Robson. I'm here with the self-proclaimed genius of Canadian football, Bryce.
Yeah, how's it going?
It's going good. As you know, the Riders picked up a big win. We got an interesting show here this week. We got Naaman Roosevelt on the show. He gave a really great interview. Very animated guy. Likes to talk. Likes to tell some good stories. You might be surprised on who he picked to survive a zombie apocalypse with. If he had to choose one rider, who would that be? You'd be surprised by the answer. So stay tuned for that. Bryce?
Yep. I think it's time for something. What do you think it's time for?
I say it's time for some quick hits. Okay, Bryce, I'm just going to lay it down for you here. You've said that the Calgary Stampeders were going to go undefeated this year. They haven't. They've lost their game last week. They won this week. But how many wins do you see, or sorry, let me say, how many losses do you think Calgary will finish with?
Well, I think they're only going to have one loss, and their second loss will definitely be in the playoffs. As even Chris Best alluded to in a couple podcasts ago, that they're a front-running team, and they're not built for the playoffs when it gets cold, and that's kind of the history of their team. So I think they're probably gonna win out the rest of the season, but I think they're gonna stink it up in the playoffs.
Well, there you go. You know what? I'm thinking Calgary might lose a couple in the home stretch here. Once we get towards the end of the playoffs, I think that it's okay if Calgary loses a few. It's hard to put the gas on the pedal, for 19 weeks straight. Another question for you here. Who do you think, quick answer, who's the best quarterback in the CFL right now?
I would say, I'd have to say Riley. I'd have to say, yeah.
Yeah, Mike Riley's got this intensity when he plays. It's unreal. I don't know how he does it. I don't know how he evades the tackles he does and how he just plays like a machine or like a man possessed. And not only does he have like good accuracy, but he just plays rough and tough, and it's real football.
Yeah, and he has just a command over the field. When he gets on the field, he seems like he's taking charge. He's reading the defenses, and he's telling all of his offensive players where to play and where to go. And yeah, he's one of those like all around just quarterbacks that they have everything going for them.
So Montreal, they picked up a big win this week. Let me ask you this. Are we going to see a crossover this year, or will the East fill their own playoff brackets?
I don't think the East is going to fill their own playoff bracket at all. I think we're going to see a crossover this year for sure.
Yeah, I'm thinking we are going to see a crossover. I think it's, based on what I'm seeing, it's going to be a battle for the crossover between BC and Winnipeg. That's just an optimistic Rider fan talking. Okay, let's get right into some CFL news. As we said earlier, Montreal beat Toronto 25-22. And Antonio Pipkin. Who? Antonio Pipkin.
Say it again.
Antonio Pipkin.
What?
Threw for 303 yards, 2 scores for Montreal. Their star quarterback comes out of nowhere. He actually made it. He was cut in training camp at the beginning of the season. Injuries have forced Montreal to re-sign Antonio Pipkin. And they won that game on a last-second field goal miss by Toronto. So that was, that's the nerves. You know what that feels like when you're watching. You want the other team to miss that field goal, and when it actually happens, that's a big moment.
Yeah, there's got to be a lot of pressure on the kicker to make that field goal to tie it up and send it to overtime, or even to win a game. And that's a lot of pressure to put on just one player on the team. So you're either the hero or the GOAT, I guess. Is that the saying? That's the saying, right?
Yeah, but it's kind of changed because over time, GOAT has become to be known as greatest of all time.
Yeah.
So now.
So you're the hero or the greatest of all time?
Yeah, the damn millennials ruined it. Kidding. But that's not all we had for a last-second victories here. Hamilton beat Edmonton at home on the same night they were inducting Joe Monford into the Hamilton Hall of Fame there. So Joe Monford is in attendance. Hamilton, they're losing. They had the lead earlier in the game. Then they lost the lead. Edmonton was doing their thing like Edmonton does.
Yeah.
Tough to keep up with Edmonton when they're on a roll. Hamilton somehow managed to stay in the game. Got there, last-second field goal. They nail it, and they get the big win. Hamilton upsets, I would say upsets Edmonton, but they were at home.
Yeah. Well, Hamilton's one of those teams that's like almost like a dark horse where they look really good or they just look really bad, and they got a team that could beat any team in the league. But sometimes they kind of they've been beating themselves this year. I found. Yeah,
they have, and I think Joe Monford being in attendance gives you that little extra push that you need. Glad to see Joe Monford.
The passion of football.
Yeah, he's one of those guys just like Charleston Hughes. Even when he wasn't on our team, you're just like, oh, it's Joe Monford. Like, he's coming,
Yeah, it happens.
And, of course, the Stampeders beat the Blue Bombers. We kind of all thought that they would. I don't think there's much surprise there. What about you?
I wasn't surprised, but the Blue Bombers are a really good team. And the Stamps just, maybe they were kind of feeling like they needed some redemption from getting beat by the Riders last week. So they kind of really brought their game against another division team and got the win over the Bombers. But the Bombers still look pretty good this year.
Yeah, the Stamps, they always look good. And I make fun of Bo Levi Mitchell, or BM as I like to call him. I make fun of the guy, but it's hard to argue with his talent and his ability and with how good the Stampeders are. I don't know if you know this. You didn't get a chance to listen to last week's episode because you've been a busy man, Bryce, but I was on the sidelines for the second quarter of the Calgary versus Riders last week at home. And so there was a little moment there where Calgary Stampeders, they score a touchdown. They missed the extra point. And so I'm on the sidelines. And this is like a guided tour, basically. So I looked at the security, and I say, how far am I allowed to stand against this bench here, against the fence? He said, well, you can stand right up against the fence. And so it's a fence on one side. It's the video advertising boards on the other side. So I stand where he tells me to stand. And I see Paradise and Maver coming back after missing the convert. So I say to them, just like a fan would say, as you beat your team.
Of course. Yeah, you're on the opposing sideline, kind of side of the stadium, right? So it's your duty to kind of riff with them a little bit, right? You wouldn't be a fan if you didn't.
Exactly. So I say to Paradise and Maver, I say, how does it feel to miss an extra point? Wow. So, I was just, and Maver kind of loses it for a second. He's not a big guy. I'm kind of a big guy, but he lost his temper a little bit. He kind of comes at me. So at this point, security sees this and they grab me. I willingly go back, and I don't want any part of a fight with a football player by any means. But I was kind of like, wow, did you see that? Oh my God, he was ready to fight. And then what happened was the second Maver was called back out for Calgary. What happened? Blocked punt, return for a touchdown. So Maver didn't have a good night. I don't want to take credit for the block punt.
Well, you should.
I'm not gonna.
You should. I think it was. I think you started it.
I'm not taking credit for
the
it.
Butterfly effect, right?
I'll give all
a ripple in the pond, and it turned into a wave, right?
I'll give all credit to Iguavan who made the play there. But that's one thing I wanted to say was that Calgary, you mentioned about Calgary being upset with that loss on themselves. Obviously, they're a team of winning. They like to win. They do not like to lose. And yeah, I could guarantee after that loss in Saskatchewan, they were not going to come out and lose to the Bombers at home. Okay, and as you know, the Roughriders in BC Lions territory this week. Bryce, the self-professed genius of Canadian football, and myself did a little live game analysis during the game, and we watched it. We made some comments throughout the first quarter, halftime, third quarter, and post-game analysis. So why don't we just go to that right now? Here it is, Saskatchewan Roughriders at the BC Lions. Let's see what the Rider Outsiders had to say about that. First quarter just ended here. Riders at the BC Lions. Riders are looking good. Bryce, what do you see?
I see the Riders are they're functioning on offense and they're looking good on defense. They're like swarming to the tackles on defense, and the offense is able to get that short yardage touchdown with Marshall.
Yeah, Nick Marshall on the offensive touchdown. Farhan Lalji mentioned this is Nick Marshall's. He's 4 for 4 on touches and touchdowns. That's 2 pick six for touchdowns and 2 QB sneaks for touchdowns. So not only Marshall, but we also got a couple new names. Devon Bailey, number 83, and number 85 Moore. They got at least 2 catches each already in the first quarter. So new faces leading the Riders offense here.
Yeah, I just have to say, Deron who? I'm pretty sure no one's going to be talking about some old wide receivers, because we got some new guys and they're looking really good, real fast.
Yeah, and special note on that number 85 Moore. During the interview with Roosevelt, which you'll hear, Roosevelt does mention that guy is probably the fastest Rough Rider on the team, so keep your eye on him if your eye can keep up. Rough Riders lead the BC Lions 20-18 at halftime. Bryce, what are you seeing out there?
I'm seeing some really good football, and I'm seeing the Riders. They're just ahead, but on defense, they're looking so good with the forced fumble from Hughes and Tony Antigua scooping up that fumble and almost getting it back in the end zone, but they're looking really good.
Yeah, so Hughes with a forced fumble, that gives him another sack on the year. That makes him with a total of 12 sacks on the year. I think the next closest guy behind him is only registered 6, so he's doubled second place already this year on sacks. Toby Antigua, yeah, again, he's kind of a turnover machine. He's got a few big plays here for us already this year. And what else we got? We mentioned earlier the receiving core. We got a brand new receiving core out there. A lot of guys you might not be familiar with, but they're making plays happen. Although they did seem to slow down a little bit in the second quarter.
Yeah, and we saw that Justin Williams-Lambert scoring his second touchdown.
Jordan Williams-Lambert.
Jordan Williams-Lambert. Yes, I knew that. And it looks like they just called the perfect play because he was wide open, and it looks like when he was going back to the sidelines, he was holding on to that touchdown ball because he didn't keep his first ball that he.
That's right. If you remember back a few weeks ago when we interviewed Jordan Williams-Lambert, one of the things he talked about was how he did the finger roll touchdown celebration, let the ball go, and then celebrated with his teammates. By the time he realized he wanted to keep that ball to commemorate his first touchdown, that was in week 2, to commemorate his first touchdown of his CFL career. The ball had already been picked up, scooped by the refs, and it was gone. So he said in the interview, he goes, I'm keeping the second one. So you just saw the second one there. So yeah, JWL. Another thing, we're also looking for a nickname for JWL. Couldn't really find it. We gave him the option of Billy Burt, which he did not like at all.
Like it.
JWL is what we've been calling him. Somewhat unoriginal, I guess. But I've been noticing people calling him Air Jordan. So what do you think of Air Jordan?
I like Air Jordan, but I guess it's been done before. But hey, let's bring it back.
Air Jordan's been done before. Let's. You got anything else to say on the first half?
What else? What I was seeing is almost all year is the special teams and the punt cover. And one guy that sticks out is Alexandre Chevrier.
That's a beautiful French accent you have.
Yes, c'est le. And he is quite très bon. He seems to be making almost every punt special teams tackle. He's just in there like a monster.
Yeah, C'est magnifique. Him and another guy, Gagné. I don't know if Gagné is also from Quebec. He's got the French sounding name, but those two guys on special teams, they're lighting it up this year, and they're new. So maybe we'll see more of them in the future. Third quarter just ended. Bryce stepped out of the room for a moment.
Never do that.
Never do that. To see the BC Lions get stuffed on a third down attempt, only to have a flag thrown. What was the call? Oh no, the 3 words Rider fans hate. Too many men.
Oh.
Jones was on the sidelines swearing up a storm. Bryce, how do you feel about, as a Rider fan, when you hear that referee say, too many men?
I just put too many men just out of my mind. I don't even think about that call. I don't even think it's illegal. I think they should be allowed to put as many men as they want on the field, and it should be good.
Yeah, don't penalize us for being ready to play, to have guys who just want to get the job done, you know?
Yeah.
What else you got for that third quarter?
Well, we saw Christian Jones with a hell of a return. He almost broke one, but kind of not ran out of steam, but kind of got slowed down. He looked like he was going to return that for a touchdown.
Yeah, and BC Lions special teams coverage has been stingy all year long, so that's big to get a huge play like that. We were watching it live, and we think Christian Jones made a mistake by cutting in on the. There was the only person left was the punter, Tai Long, to stop him. Christian Jones cut in. He should have just cut out, and beat the punter in a foot race.
Yeah, tiptoed that sidelines and went all the way for the major. We also saw kind of a little funny thing happen with Roosevelt there after he caught a pass.
Yeah, that was funny because Roosevelt caught the pass, sees the referee. You know, receivers will often throw the gentle underhand ball to the ref so the ref can grab the ball. What happened?
Oh, it looks like he hit one of the BC players in the face who was standing in front of the referee. I think it was an honest mistake. No penalty was called on that, so I think it was the right call. But
yeah, the funny thing was, I think it was Sean Lemon. Is it Sean Lemon? I don't know. It's a Lemon either way. So he gets hit in the face by Roosevelt's ball, and Lemon starts complaining and crying and throwing his hands in the air and stomping, and you could see there was probably tears rolling down his face. But he threw the ball at me, and then you see Roosevelt in the background just laughing at Lemon.
Yeah, I'm surprised he didn't do one of those soccer like kind of
World Cup, just grab your face and fall.
Yeah, what do they call that when they fake?
Well, it's a dive.
Yeah. Like, I'm surprised we didn't see a soccer dive happen there from Lemon, just to try and get some sort of penalty.
Well, we're going to the fourth quarter, 24-18. Here we go.
It's a close game.
A little bit of fourth quarter / post-game analysis here now. Bryce, Riders with the big win.
Yeah, they came.
They saw.
And they conquered. And they made BC's O. And it had to go. Someone had to beat them at home, and the Riders did it. They beat BC at home. BC was undefeated at home. And last week, they beat the undefeated Calgary Stampeders. So the Riders are on a roll right now.
Riders definitely on a roll. This game was close. This game was back and forth. Momentum shifted a few times. So close, in fact, that 11:40 left in the fourth quarter. Both teams were tied with 234 net yards. And I just want to allude to something we saw, or something I heard earlier in the evening on the pre-game analysis from Peterson and Mullender there. They were talking about the hydration. Mullender was saying that it was hot in that dome, super hot in that dome, so much so that hydration was going to be an issue for these players. And speaking from experience, Luke Mullender said, unless you're overhydrating, and at least 2 days in advance to prepare for something like this, that hydration is going to be tough to keep up with. So I think I saw the Roughriders look like they were running out of steam a little bit in the end there. Yeah,
it looks like they were, and we even saw Lawther get a pretty nasty calf cramp after he kicked one of those field goals, even in the third. So I'm sure that a lot of the players on the Riders were cramping up because of the heat in the dome.
Yeah, and luckily the Riders were able to hold on for the big win. Despite a fourth quarter pick thrown by Zach Collaros, defense stepped up. Gainey had he jumped 4, 5, 7 feet in the air, batted a ball down to save a big, what would have been a huge offensive play from Lule. And then Nick Marshall, on the last drive that BC had, Nick Marshall almost had an interception there. What do you think? Was that offensive pass interference? Did we miss a call there?
I don't know. I think you got to let him play, but definitely looked like he had his arm a little bit.
Yeah, and it didn't matter in the long run because right after that, the Riders stuffed Travis Lule and the BC Lions on the third down gamble. Maybe a little bit of redemption for the 13th man play earlier in the game, but Riders coming out big when it matters.
Yeah, and they got the win. And let's just keep the winning going. Can't stop them from winning.
Go Riders.
Mm-hmm. Well, don't you have something coming up here that you alluded to earlier? You got a pretty good interview coming up.
Yeah, so I had a chance to hit the Riders practice and have a few words with Naaman Roosevelt. Naaman Roosevelt, great guy. We've had him on the team for a few years now. He's really stepped into his own, become a leader. And it's weird. There's been so many different receivers in Saskatchewan this season that Naaman's almost getting lost in the shuffle. But don't let that fool you. He's still a team leader and a heck of a receiver. And I just encourage y'all, take a listen to the interview. And at one point, you make sure you notice I ask him who's the fastest Rough Rider on the team. And you listen to his answer there because we saw some big plays out of him in this game against BC. So here we go to Naaman Roosevelt. Here I'm Dylan at the Rough Rider Stadium with the one and only Naaman Roosevelt. Roosevelt, thanks for coming on to the show.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
So just a little bit of background there. You played high school football, university football, and pro football all in Buffalo. So how would you describe your football life in Buffalo?
Pretty crazy, you know what I mean? Just to, be able to play, high school, college, and, pros in my hometown. It's pretty crazy. And, I was, excited to do that. And it was an amazing feeling. And, it was a definite experience I would cherish in my life.
So what would you say your best memory was with the Bills?
Best memory, probably the touchdown I had against the Giants. It was like a 60-yard hitch I had, and I took it to the crib. And, that was probably the biggest play I had, in my professional career. And it was pretty sweet, to get that.
Yeah, it was kind of a yards after catch. It was all you there. Could you take us through that? What was going through your head? Do you remember back then? What was going through your head as you're catching that ball?
You know what I mean? First, I saw they was blitzing, so I'm like, all right, let me hurry up and get to this route and turn around. And as soon as I turned around, Fitzpatrick was the quarterback, and I saw him. We looked eye to eye, and I knew he was going to throw it. And as soon as I caught it, I was running. I saw nobody, nobody behind me, so I got the ball, caught across the field, and, try to hopefully nobody catch me. You can't get caught from behind. They talk about me the whole week, so I'm glad I did.
So you joined the Rough Riders in 2015. How does the Rough Riders fan base compare to the Bills fan base?
Man, it's like the same, man. It's a small city, all the fans are know about the team, know about the players, know about, everything, the ins and outs about everything. And it's just, amazing to see that here. It's just the fans are, always in tune into the games, always know what's going on, and always excited about the games.
Do you feed off the fans? Like when the fans are going crazy here at Mosaic Stadium, for a big catch, but also like on defense, and you're sitting on the bench waiting to come on the field, and the fans are going crazy. Does that hype you up as a player? Definitely. We know
even when defense is out there and we go on crunk on the sideline, we might be standing on the benches trying to get the crowd up for the defense. And it's exciting to see all the green. And this is definitely the best place to play in the CFL. It's one of the best stadiums, and not even just in the CFL, but all around, one of the best stadiums, and it's always fun to play here.
So a few weeks ago against the Stamps, you got hit low and you landed on your head. Can you describe that play for us?
It was pretty crazy, I try to cut, but that's my thing. I feel like I always try to cut back, across the field, try to make a big play. And, dude looked me right in my eyes, and I thought he was going to hit me high, but he ended up going low on me. I flipped so fast I didn't even know what happened, and ended up falling on my head so quick, and it was just a sore neck the next day, which is lucky. It could have been a lot worse. So just a little sore neck, and I was good a week later.
So as a pro, do you hold grudges against guys like that who make that hit, or is it just sort of it comes with the game?
You definitely hold grudges, yeah. Because certain guys that do certain things. I knew, playing against him and playing against, a guy like that, they like to go low. And I should have known that he was going to do that. So, you definitely, hold grudges. So, I definitely try to get him, this last game.
So, Rider fans over the course of the last few years have seen you make some spectacular catches. This one might be kind of tricky. I don't know. Can you describe just how you balance everything that's involved in a catch? Like, you're running full speed, you got to do a jump, you're thinking about maybe getting hit by the defense as you make that catch, how you might land, all this happens in a split second. So how do you balance that as a receiver?
For me, especially when the ball is in the air, it's like slow motion. I feel like it's slow motion to me. I'm just looking at the ball and I'm just like, okay, I'm figuring out like, okay, how I'm about to jump and get this. And, once it happens, it's just like, okay, I got it now. I know I'm about to hit the ground, so hold on to it, And it's just, I feel like it's, it's always in slow motion, but, I enjoy making that big catch or going over the middle, making that big play, taking a big hit. I feel like, it gets the team riled up, it gets the fans riled up, and I want to be that guy to do that.
Awesome, yeah. So can you describe what do you think Zach Collaros brings to the Roughriders and to the offense?
Just that veteran leadership, he's a fiery guy on the field. He's talking, he's screaming, he's controlling the offense in the huddle. So a guy like that is always good to have, because we look to the quarterback to be that guy that when stuff is not going so well, for him to calm us down and tell us let's go. So just to have a guy like that that's been through it and played in this league for a little bit is definitely great for us to have.
Do you get a sense where it's like there's chemistry when it's like you're running and you think if he were to just throw it there, I could get it, and then he does? Do you find that happens with him?
Definitely, yeah. And it's crazy because, we only played 3.5, it's been 3.5 games where, Zach's been out there and our whole offense been together. So, we're definitely, catching on, especially in practice where, we're seeing the same thing and he's throwing it right on time where I know what's going to be and he knows where he wants me to be. And even in the games, this past game, he was doing an awesome job just hitting everybody, in them holes, and he saw the little spots where they needed to be. And, he's doing a great job. Dave.
David Watford just walked by, gave a little handshake. So, easy question, or maybe it's a fun little question here. Who's the fastest player on the team right now?
Fastest player? Man, Coach Jones, he gets a lot of them fast guys, man. They got to be probably Christian Jones or probably more, 85. We call them Swerve, but them two probably the fastest receivers we got.
And so, little different direction here. If you weren't a football player, what would your dream career be?
Dream career? I had hoop dreams back in the day. I thought I was gonna go to the NBA. I always wanted to, and all my friends were getting bigger and I stopped growing. So I was like, football might be might be the thing for me. But I wish I could play like in one NBA game. That would be my dream right there.
That's amazing. I swear I could go 30 minutes and not sink a single shot on the basketball court. It's actually pretty impressive. And another weird one here. If you had to survive a zombie apocalypse with one Roughrider, who are you picking?
Man. Oh man, probably Josh Stanford, a receiver. And it's funny because he brings this up all the time. He got it mapped out what he's gonna do if a zombie apocalypse happens. So I'm with him. So because he got it all down, he know what he's gonna do. So I'm definitely going with him.
Okay, so you got the BC Lions coming up next. The podcast will air after the game. But what is the Roughriders' biggest challenge in facing BC?
Just going. They're undefeated this year at home, so we know going. To Vancouver is a hard place to play. The fans are going crazy. They play fast and physical when they're at home for some reason. So it's for us to go out there and match their intensity. We're going to be excited. They saw what we did last week, so they know they're going to have to bring. They're going to bring that extra effort with them. So for us, it's just to go match their intensity and bring that physicality that we brought to Calgary.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Naaman. It means a lot to me. Much appreciated.
Thank you, man.
Huge thanks again to Naaman Roosevelt for the great interview. Loved the answer to the zombie question that he gave us there. Hey, can never be too prepared, right?
Yeah.
Another thing I wanted to point out was when he mentioned number 85, Moore. So he's seeing action for the first time this year against BC, and he had that end-around play and got some good yardage of that. Tough to get yards on those plays, I find. That's what I see. And also some good catches there where the only reason he was open was because of that breakout speed that he had. So I'm looking for more out of Moore later this season.
Yeah. And all these new receivers are doing really, really good. And the return of Marshall on defense, right? And in the short yardage. So I really think that everybody is going to just get back on board. All the rats that were jumping off the Jones ship are now swimming back to the ship, trying to climb back on board, because I think you realize that Jones actually is a good football coach, and I think he really knows what he's doing.
Yeah, I think Jones does have a great football mind, and he's stubborn, and sometimes he gets his way, and that's a good thing. And I've always kind of liked Jones and his rough around the edges approach to things. Maybe a little better on the PR would be nice, but that's okay. That's okay. Hey, you know what, Bryce? We don't have Mitch here to tell one of us to do the Rouge intro live. But because we don't have Mitch, we also don't have the effects and nothing like that. So we gotta do the Rouge intro live.
Let's do it.
You know what? I do it or you want to do it?
You do it.
Okay. It's time for the Rouge. 1 point on Canadian football from your Rider Outsiders. The Rouge.
Yeah.
Not bad. Not
Better
bad.
than mine.
I just want to make a quick point. What we're seeing here, incredible CFL action. We had some huge catches in the BC versus Saskatchewan game on both sides for both teams. I mean, these are catch of the year candidates. There was multiple catches during this game. And if that's not enough, you look at the other games this week. Montreal beating Toronto with his, first-year quarterback coming out of nowhere on the last-second miss for the field goal, and then Hamilton beating Edmonton on another last-second field goal. And then Stamps just playing good, solid football. I mean, this CFL this year, I mean, it's in full gear right now. It's go time. These teams know the wins are starting to really matter. Montreal is essentially in playoff mode. If you ask me, right now, the NFL might be starting up, but for me, the CFL is where it's at.
Yeah. Even this game against Saskatchewan at BC, almost every catch was a circus catch. Some of the times it was double coverage, and I just couldn't believe how some of those guys came down with the balls.
Devon Bailey with that incredible catch and double coverage. Saw the replay 5 times. Still don't know how he made the catch. What about you? You got a Rouge for the week here?
I got a Rouge here, and my Rouge is I think Glenn Suter is in my head. I don't know what it is, but me and Dylan, we're watching the game, and we'll make a comment about the game, and 3 or 4 seconds later, Suter pretty much says verbatim the exact same thing that we said about what we noticed in the game. Now, either it's because I'm a genius of Canadian football, and maybe so is Glenn Suter, but it just seems like it's either that or he has a direct line from my TV set, and he can hear everything that I'm saying, and maybe that's just my point.
So we're thinking here, you're either on the wiretap, and Suter's got the
I'm
feed.
wiretapped, yeah.
Or you're existing at the Glenn Suter level.
I think it's maybe one or the other, but it might even be both. So
it might even be both. That's the Rouge for you. I'm sure Mitch is loving that. He's going to be hearing these Rouges, and he's going to be all over it. Well, that simple clapping you hear in the background means it's time for the meh of the week. Well, with incredible CFL action all week long, it's tough to really find a meh of the week. I don't have any candidates. Bryce, what about you? Do you have anything you saw?
I got a meh of the week for you. My meh of the week is, how about this? You saw that pretty pretty flagrant pass interference by the Riders against BC. And of course, I saw it and I was like, that's pass interference. And then we see Wally Buono. He goes out and he throws the challenge flag.
Right,
And,
yeah.
and rightfully so, he wins the challenge. But my man of the week is I watched Wally Buono walk over to the flag that he threw and do that old man thing where he leans down to pick up the flag and goes, and then picks the flag back up. And then me and Dylan kind of had a prediction that Wally Buono was probably not going to challenge any more plays because then he would have to go out on the field and pick up the flag for himself.
Yeah, I think
he was bending at the knees though. It
was a healthy lift, but yeah, I think he threw that challenge flag and he started looking around for his backup quarterback, wondering if he could get someone to pick up this flag for him, and realized he's gonna have to do it himself. And he sees it. He kind of went pigeon-toed.
Yeah,
bent at the knees, and he just the whole Krusty the Clown groan.
It was almost in slow motion in real time, I think.
It was slow motion, real time. You can never be too careful when you're lifting cloth.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, hey, he knows. He's been a coach for a long time. We were commenting he's probably been a coach for longer than we even know.
You don't get longevity out of a career like Buono did by lifting with your back.
No. You got to lift with your knees, and a little bit of an old man grunt doesn't help. Or
Here it is, your meh of the week, Wally Buono. Okay, Bryce, what do you think? The Roughriders now are 5-4. We're on a winning record now. Just double checking the standings here. Saskatchewan Roughriders are now really moving into West playoff contention. I'm not talking about a home playoff game, but with the Edmonton Eskimos losing, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers losing, and our big win over Calgary last week, Roughriders, and our big win on BC this week, Roughriders are moving up into the playoffs.
Yeah, beating BC,
playoff contention.
Yeah, beating BC is a big win for us. Of course, getting a win over Calgary, getting wins is always good, but we're not going to catch Calgary. But beating BC right now at this point in the season is good because that gets the Riders just another win away from being in the basement, and that's what we need to do to climb back up. And Winnipeg is not that far off.
Yeah, and you know what? If we can go back-to-back wins on Winnipeg against Labor Day and Banjo Bowl, and Calgary goes back-to-back against Edmonton on their wins, somehow we're in second place in the West. So, that's a big what-if. But, hey, it's very possible it's in the sights. Saskatchewan Roughriders are suddenly looking good. And Chris Jones, he's making those tough choices, making the cuts, cutting Duron Carter, making some other tough calls.
Who? Duron who? Never heard of the guy. Never heard of the guy.
So, ladies and gentlemen, Saskatchewan Roughriders are looking good. And yeah, maybe we are in the home playoff game contention. Maybe we will see the first home playoff game at the new Mosaic Stadium. Last thing I want to touch on this week, coming up next, we have the only regular season game that matters. Kidding. But no, I'm serious. Labor Day, Sunday, the Bombers are coming to Saskatchewan, and it's going to be on like Donkey Kong. Bryce, what do you have to say?
Well, it's going to be like every Labor Day game. It's going to be a fight on the field and most likely a fight in the parking lot with the fans after the game from my experience with Labor Day games.
Yeah, you know what? I love Bomber fans coming to town. It's a love-hate relationship. We love to hate each other, but we have fun doing it. So Bomber fans, come on down. We welcome you. And if I'm driving around and happen to see you wearing your Blue Bombers jersey and I honk my horn aggressively and scream obscenities out the window and that sort of thing, don't be offended. Just just enjoy the atmosphere. That's what it's all about. Am I right?
It is. It's gonna be a Labor Day game, and it's gonna be off the wall, just like every year, because you know that Winnipeg loves to come and fill Mosaic Stadium for Labor Day game, and likewise, when the week after, Rider fans love to go to Winnipeg and fill up their stadium too. So it's gonna be a really fun game, and hopefully the Riders win because they need to beat the Bombers.
Yeah, they do. We broke that down, how they could get into the home playoff contention just a moment ago. I have a quick trivia question for you, Bryce. Who is the first team to register a regular season win at new Mosaic Stadium?
The Saskatchewan Roughriders.
Incorrect. It's the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Winnipeg Blue Bombers with the first win of the new Mosaic Stadium. So I just want you to let that sink in. If you could just let that sink in for a moment. Just take it in. Just let it sink in, everybody. The Blue Bombers got the first win in that stadium. That will go down in history forever, us knowing the Bombers got the first win. So use that passion when you're cheering and your voice is blown and you got to cheer anyways. Riders, use that passion. We cannot let the Bombers get a win in our stadium ever again in the history.
For eternity.
For all
time. Yeah.
Thank you so much for listening. That's the episode this week, the Rider Outsiders podcast. Stay tuned because we always have more episodes. We record them weekly and we look forward to hearing from you. Check us out on Facebook. Like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter. Share the podcast. Tell your friends. And thanks. This has been fun.